Welcome in to the Main Event Sports Show. Main Event Sports TV Live is going down on a wonderful Thursday evening here in the Ville. Haven Harrington and Rashad Myers coming to you, the brain trust of the Main Event Sports Show. Haven, how you doing tonight?
Man, I am doing awesome, man. We got so much to talk about. All sorts of shenanigans with the Louisville football team. Even though they did get some good news today, that's great. We got a lot of Louisville hoops to talk about, a lot of Louisville basketball, and of course, Super Sunday, the old man versus the new guy.
It's like Jason Voorhees, like Friday the 13th, part 12. You can't kill him.
You cannot. Brady's like undefeated. The dude is like a phenom.
I have
phenomenal.
Some very interesting kind of off the cuff takes about that whole thing. So I'll enjoy talking about that. So Super Bowl Sunday. I know you being such an avid football lover. This is, we have all kinds of football news right in the middle of basketball season. I know you're loving it.
Oh man, you know I am because it's football. I mean, it's like the world's greatest sport.
Absolutely. Second greatest sport, but that's okay. Who's counting? You live in Kentucky, Haven. Just don't forget that.
Yeah. No, football's the number one. I don't care what you say.
Fair. That's fair. So, of course, I guess I'll actually let football lead off, even though we're in the middle of basketball, especially since the basketball team is currently on a pause right now.
You know what? I got a better idea. No, let's talk about that pause.
Okay.
And what the implications of that pause can mean. Because this is like the second time they've had to pause. And the last time they paused, it wasn't the best. When they came back, they were real rusty. It took them a couple of games to get back in rhythm. Once they got back in rhythm, they played pretty well, but it was like a rough couple of games, for those guys to get back in rhythm. Like, what about this pause?
Well, I mean, that's going to be the question. I mean, the questions are out there of, A, who is the person? Because, they're always very cryptic with that, where they say that they had a positive test inside the Cardinal program. And, anytime they say that, they could be talking about anybody. Of course, it can be players, it can be coaches, it can be assistants, it could be trainers, it could be anybody that works in and around the players besides the players themselves. So, I mean, the first question is who's got it, and finding that out. I mean, because I believe what the coaching staff had said previously is that at this point, about 90% of the players on the team had COVID at some point, since they joined the team back in, September, whenever they actually reported to campus after the long layoff. It seems like one would think that the COVID had kind of run through most of the program to where they would be okay, not necessarily okay moving forward, but less susceptible. But unfortunately now, I'm always dialed into everything COVID and everything. I now watch the news a lot, and these new variants of the COVID strains coming out of South Africa, the UK, South America. It's kind of complicating things because now we're finding out that people that have tested positive previously can now recatch the virus with this new strain. So that just kind of adds a whole new layer to it. I have no idea if that's what's going on with the Louisville program or not. But, it's going to be a question because you already had the Syracuse game canceled on Wednesday. They've already announced that the game on Saturday versus Virginia has been postponed as well. So, we don't know. I mean, Louisville was down for 18 days the last time they went on pause. And as you talked about, Haven, just the fact that they came back off of that, Carlik Jones was still not available to play. They end up going up on the road, to play Wisconsin, and that did not go well. And it did take them a little while to come back. So, I think it's going to be a question just to see how long this lasts and the ramifications with this whole COVID era, man. You just really don't know anything.
No, you don't, and that's what's kind of the, I guess it's say kind of like the scary part in all this. It's like what's going to happen next, and how long will they be down? Will this be a week or a couple of days? Who is it? A lot of this is probably gonna have to come back like after they do the contact tracing, and
Yeah.
we kind of find out like exactly what's going on.
I mean, that's going to be the question mark is, how many people are affected? Is this something that's going to be nagging and lasting a real long time? It was funny. The one unintended consequence that may come out of this that will actually work in Louisville's favor is, people were talking and hinting about talking about Malik Williams being on his way back, and they expected him to be back with the team around mid-February. Well, if this pause is anywhere near to as long as the last pause, Malik Williams may actually be playing in Louisville's next game. I don't know if that's the case, but the timing definitely could work out that could happen. I see Sean M. Vanderhoff. What's up, Sean? Thank you for listening. Chiming in, he said, "Did you say 90% of men's basketball had COVID?" Yes,
For the team.
Per the coaches, since the beginning of the team coming together back in September, they said about 90% of the players had COVID at some point during this stretch. That could have that. Now I don't know if that means guys that were while they were sitting at home before they were able to come, because usually players report in May, and then they'll be there in May, do the summer there, and work out. So I don't know if any of the players while they were at home happened to catch the virus. That could also be the same as well. But they said that 90% of the players have had it at some point up to now. So yes, no, you heard me absolutely correct. This thing is real, man. It's real, and it's insidious, and it's everywhere. So Louisville basketball is no different. I mean, everybody's being affected by it right now.
Yeah, and it's just like it's just taking over, and it is what it is. This is for at least the next year or so. This may be the new normal for college basketball. So we'll just have to see. I'll be kind of interested to see like how this team turns out, because to me right now the book, and we said this before, the book is kind of already out on U of L. Everything runs through their guards. If you can
Yeah.
slow or stop when their guards down, then you force somebody else to be that third scorer. And every game is somebody different. Last game was Sam Williamson stepped up and balled out of his mind. Next game maybe
20
somebody.
and 8. Hey, no. You can't just say he bought 20 and 18. That man put up West Unseld numbers.
Like I said, he balled out of his mind. But
20 and 18
but
off the bench.
but the problem with this team is you can't find anybody who can do that consistently, and that's been an issue. It's like like who can do this consistently? Who's going to be that third scorer that you can count on every single night? And this team just it hasn't had that consistent third man, and that's been an issue.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really and truthfully where this Louisville program is right now, and that's why this pause is coming at a very difficult time, because of course we know that they got beat at home by Florida State. They had the really tough loss on the road at Miami, and then of course they lost to Clemson on the road as well. So the Louisville fans were none too happy with how the Louisville team was playing. And then they come out against the Georgia Tech team that a lot of folks thought would give Louisville a game and possibly knock the Cardinals off. Of course, they blew out Kentucky earlier this year, as everybody remembers. But Louisville came out and played a great game, one of their best games of the year. And they seem to have some momentum going into the Wednesday night contest against Syracuse, and now they went on pause. So it's tough. I mean, it seemed like it was a team that had some good feelings. Sam Williamson came off of a game where he was a man possessed with 20 points and 18 rebounds, and now they immediately have to go on a pause. So if you're a Louisville fan, you've got to be worried about, will we be able to come back and jump right into it? But, I mean, this is the state of play in basketball and in the sports and in the world right now. Everybody has gone on pause. I mean, me personally, I've had to quarantine twice in the last month. I literally have been out of my house a couple of times since December. That's pretty much been it. So, I mean, it's hitting everybody. It is what it is. Hopefully Louisville basketball can get back and rolling. And I'll be very interested, to see Charles Minlin. Does he look better, and does he look ready to contribute. Chris Mack said that he's a guy that, as he gets more comfortable, he's expected to be a guy who can provide some scoring punch and can knock down shots from the perimeter and do some other things. It seems like he's getting more confident out there, even if he's not necessarily being that aggressive at the moment. But we'll see. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, because you have two rock solid guards. David Johnson is a lottery pick. I think there's no doubt about that. And Carly Jones may be the ACC Player of the Year, depending on how Louisville finishes up the rest of the season. So, we'll find out what happens, hey. But Louisville, I don't think the men's basketball team is very happy with the current status of the team having to sit out for, maybe an extended amount of time.
Yeah, and I would definitely agree. This, once again, it just comes at an inopportune time. But you know what? We'll just have to see what happens. It's one of those things that we'll have to see what happens. We'll have to see, if these guys can make a faster comeback, I guess, than what they did before.
Oh, please.
A much
Please.
faster comeback than what they did before.
Yeah, I mean that's a must. I mean they've gotta find a way to get things rolling. Now it is unfair to say that, considering that the Wisconsin game was the only game that they lost. Until they went out there and laid the egg against Miami and had their second loss of the season. So, I mean, it did just take them literally the one game coming back, Carly Jones coming back. But unfortunately, that ACC schedule gets a lot tougher in February. It usually does. They have not played North Carolina yet. They're still scheduled to play Virginia twice. You're going to have some very difficult games down the end of the season. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how good this Louisville team is. They played like a team that should be trying to fight for a double bye as one of the best four teams in the conference. But, I mean, Haven, what's your feeling? Like, how good do you think this Louisville team is? I really don't know.
And I don't know either, because at one point, like at the beginning of the season, they played like they were ready to take that next step. Like they figured everything out from jump. Then he had the COVID break. They hit a big rusty patch where they kind of forgot how to play winning basketball. Then he got it back. And then he went through, as I can only put it, as the Chris Mack lull, because we've seen it now. Every season he's been here, they've gone through this, I guess, the Chris Mack lull. They take a couple of games off where they forget how to play winning basketball. Then they kind of slowly remember, kind of like what got them there. Like with this team. This team can't, there's certain things they can't do. Like, one, they have to play slow. And by slow, I mean that they kind of have to run through, they have to go through the offense. They have to do a half-court set. This isn't the team. They can run, but that's not how they score points, and that's not how they win. And sometimes they forget that, and then they want to stand around and play hero ball, where they're willing to stand around and wait for Carlik or David Johnson to do something. It's just so weird how they kind of forget the things that got them there.
They don't really
crazy.
seem to have. Yeah, I don't think they really seem to have an offensive identity. I mean, kind of what the Clemson team did to Louisville, and what I think Georgia Tech tried to do was really just crowd the paint. And, if you can keep Carly Jones from getting all the way to the basket and make it difficult for him to get in there, they don't really trust that these other guys can beat them. Now, thankfully, because of that and because of the way they were helping, Sam Williamson was able to feast on those offensive rebounds, just basically running in right behind Carlik or David when they're attacking the basket, and it's leaving the offensive rebounding lanes wide open. Now, that's something that if Sam can start to do that consistently, I think that's huge for Louisville. I think that's something that he can do a lot of. He's got the athleticism. He's 6'7". He's got long arms. He can jump out the gym. But Louisville needs that, because Jalen Withers is a guy. I don't know who Jalen Withers is as a player. Some games he looks like, he's the guy who dunked on the 7'2" guy for Florida State, and then other games he's just barely trying to lay the ball up against Big Moses Wright for Georgia Tech and getting his stuff thrown off the backboard. So, I mean, I don't think Jalen Withers is really ready to be a consistent go-to guy. So Sam Williamson, as a sophomore, he needs to be the guy to step up. I mean, between him and Charles Minlin, I think that's the two guys that you really need to lean on And, I don't even think once Malik Williams comes back, he's not really an offensive guy. He's not a guy you're going to throw the ball to on the block and, tell him to go to work. So Louisville's got to find different ways to score. But, yeah, it's all about Carlik and David. Carlik and David cannot have off games in Louisville win. I just don't think I can see it happen.
Yeah, and that's something that I definitely can agree with. And about Midland, I know a lot of people expect him to come out and be an instant force, especially on the offensive end. But that hasn't been the case. He's done like a couple of threes, and then he's kind of disappeared for like games on end.
Yeah.
But he's still kind of getting into his, I guess, the flow of the offense and the flow of playing college basketball at this level.
It's interesting. They said this is the first time he's ever been hurt. So that they think that maybe just the trauma of getting injured might be playing a part in that as well, that he just maybe doesn't trust the knee.
That could be it.
I think that may have a part to do with it, and I think that Charles Midland is a guy who a lot of his game has been determined by his athleticism. He's a guy who's known as a great defender, a slasher, someone who is a great rebounder as a guard. When you have your first kind of major injury like that and it's your knee, sometimes that can mess with your head. So, it could be just a simple fact that, besides the fact that he's stepping up to the ACC level, now he's got to deal with his first major injury of his career, and it might be messing with his head.
And it may be. These things you just never know. You just never know. And so hopefully he can kind of get through that, because this is a guy that Louisville definitely needs, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They desperately need that consistent number 3 scorer. Once Louisville can get that consistent number 3 scorer, I think that's the missing piece. Is that consistent guy. Then you can add in a Sam Williamson, the JJ Trainer, or Withers, or Dre. Those guys can fill in and they get hot when they get hot. And when that happens, this team is almost unstoppable. The hard part, though, is getting to that point.
Yeah. They already have the defense. They're one of the best defensive teams in the ACC. They're the number 1 percentage 3-point shooting defense in the ACC. So, if you can find a way to get to that 75-point plateau, I think under Chris Mack, Louisville, when they reached 75 points, Louisville's only got like 3 losses. It's some crazy record. Under Chris Mack, Louisville's 30-3 when they score 75 points, or 25-3, something like that. That's the whole thing, is can they get enough offense to go with a really good defense? So we'll see. I think that we are going to have a lot of time to talk about it, because frankly, I don't think we're going to see Louisville on the court again until probably maybe a week from Saturday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's tough right now.
It is.
So,
but before we get started and talk about Louisville football and what appears to be rats leaving a sinking ship, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. I just want to remind everybody, if you're watching on Facebook, to like our Facebook page. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, like the video. We want to keep doing this, but we need more likes and we need more subscribers. So I'm dependent on you guys. Make it happen.
Absolutely. And in fact, if you're on Facebook, go ahead and go to Main Event Sports Show on YouTube and subscribe anyway. Because if you like everything that we're doing here, everything that we're doing and more is always available on our YouTube channel as well. And you'll get those ping notifications. Just hit the little bell to send notifications anytime Main Event Sports is live. We have some great things that'll be upcoming. We're going to start to do some recruiting spotlights and some other special interviews that you're not going to want to miss. So definitely just make sure that you keep up with everything that Main Event's doing, Main Event DC, maineventsports101.com, and the whole myriad of Main Event Sports media.
Oh, wow, man. Just bring out the college terms. Look at that. Use that West Kentucky education to its finest. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, hey, speaking of Bowling Green, let's talk about Scott Satterfield.
Oh, what a transition. You've been doing
this. Perfect, right? I was perfect.
Yeah, Scott Satterfield.
So I'm gonna give you my quick take, and you tell me if you think I'm right or wrong, if I'm being too harsh on
The
Satterfield.
floor is yours, sir.
Now, for complete, I guess, just like complete transparency. Once it was determined we were not going to get Brom as our head coach, I wanted Scott Satterfield. That was the first person I said Louisville should go after. I was in the press box talking about it last year before he hired Scott. I mean, the year before last, before he hired Scott, I was the very first guy in the press box to say we should look at Scott Satterfield. So I've been high on this guy for quite a while.
I can vouch for that.
Yes. So what can I say? Scott he's a good coach. He's a very good coach. But there's certain aspects. However, but there's certain aspects at coaching at this level I don't think he's quite ready for. It kind of comes from Appalachian State, being a small town guy his entire life. I mean, he's coached and played Appalachian State almost his entire life. He spent maybe like 2 years, I think, in Central Florida where he coached T.Y. Hilton. And then he went back to App State. That was on like a 2-year stint. And that's the longest rather he's ever been from App State. This is not a big city guy, and I think coming to the big city, I don't think he has. I don't think he's feeling a big city. I'm gonna put it like that.
Sound like the Beverly Hillbillies.
I'm not saying like Beverly Hillbillies, but he's not feeling a big city. So he goes to, as we all know, he goes behind the AD's back. He doesn't steal his coaches, and he goes interviews for the South Carolina job. He gets busted. He has a press conference. Basically, he says, "Hey, I'm sorry. I like Louisville. I want to build something here. This is where I want to be. However, if another job opens up in the Carolinas, yeah, I'm going to be interested because I'm homesick." It's pretty much what he said.
When he said, Haven, I don't want to interrupt you, but no, you're absolutely right. He did say that, and I cannot believe that he literally said that in the press conference after being caught, after going behind the AD's back, after going and not telling any of his coaching staff that he was going to do this interview. He literally came out and said that, yeah, if somebody else in that area calls asking to want to interview him, that he will listen again.
Yeah.
Could not believe it. Okay, you can continue. Sorry.
Thank you. So now the biggest thing is he didn't tell the AD, which is big. But Bobby did that. Probably Charlie Strong did that as well. No, Charlie did that with Tennessee, but he didn't do that with Texas. So, but both Bobby and Charlie let the coaching staff know that, hey, we get this bigger deal. Hey, let's ride out together. Scott didn't do that. Scott looked out for himself. And I think what you're seeing now with all the coaches leaving, with the left for leaving, because you have to remember, for these guys to get jobs now, that means they must have been putting their names out there for a couple of weeks. This isn't something that just popped up. These guys have been putting their names out there, letting people know that, hey, I'm available. I want to go. In Lefford's case, he applied for the head coaching job at Marshall, and he took the NFL gig as soon as it opened. So basically, the first job that paid him about the same, a little bit more, he was out. You see a lot of other guys as well. Shadon, who's the defensive back coach, he left to go to West Virginia to be their co-defense coordinator. Now, a lot of these guys, you can say that, you know what, it was, it may have been a promotion. Like Ponce, he went back to the App State to become offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you can say that is a, promotion, but if you're at a Power 5 school, you can usually take that quarterback coach and make it something a little bit bigger than that. But let's just go with it. Let's say all these guys got promotions.
They all just got promotions, hey. That's why they left. It didn't have anything to do with anything.
And some of it is. I believe some of those guys probably left because, yes, it's better jobs. He did get a promotion. But honestly, and this is just me, I could be wrong, I think a lot of these guys left because they're leaving because they don't think Scott's going to be here. They think as soon as North Carolina comes calling, as soon as Coastal Carolina comes calling, or whether NC State, or those schools comes calling, that yeah, Scott is probably he's gonna interview for the job and take if it's offered. And
The thing that we heard, Haven, and what Scott Satterfield talked about in his incoming press conference, and what we heard time after time after time when they came and took that job, he said that the reason he came to Louisville and the reason he was able to bring so many people is because, Dwayne Ledford leaving NC State to come join him with the Louisville coaching staff, Brian Brown coming, as one of the top young defensive coordinators in the country, coming and following him to Louisville is because everybody wanted to work with Scott because they loved him. They loved who he was as a person, and they wanted to build something special together in Louisville. These were guys that were coming to be together long term. Like, this is literally what we heard. We heard the great thing about this coaching staff and the people that he brought in was that they were all going to be together because they all are working towards one goal, to build something special at Louisville, to be here 3, 4, 5 years together with very minimal coaching turnover. Like, literally, they said that coming in. They said Dwayne Ledford left a very good job, some very good players in NC State, because he wanted to come coach with Sat, and they had a great rapport and working relationship, and they wanted to be together long term. And Scott Satterfield flushed all that goodwill down the toilet. He literally, it took him a little selfish spat of, I don't know. He literally said that, the South Carolina people came and talked to him and he was missing his parents. So he decided to take this interview, and, all of a sudden he's looking to leave. Didn't tell anybody, didn't say anything about it. And my thought is, you know what? He had so much loyalty from all of his coaching staff. He threw it and pissed it all away, frankly. I mean, at that point, it became okay, this is you got to get yours, I got to get mine scenario. So if that's going to be the scenario where you got to get yours and I got to get mine, then I'm going to get mine the best I can, because when you're telling me right now to our faces, to the fans' faces, to the AD's face, that not only did I have this flirtation with South Carolina, you told everybody you didn't even learn your lesson, because you said if somebody comes calling next year, you're going to take that interview too. Well, hell, at that point, there is no loyalty. There is no building of a program. There is nothing. And I tell you what, Haven, they made the announcement that Brian Brown turned down Tennessee and is now named the associate head coach at Louisville. Louisville's lucky they were able to keep Brian Brown, period, because I think that with the precedent that's been set by Coach Scott Satterfield, I wouldn't blame anybody for leaving. And it's unfortunate for the University of Louisville. It's unfortunate for the fans. And, I don't feel sorry for Scott Satterfield. That old shucks routine does not work with me. He made a stupid mistake, but then he doubled down on it. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And I'm not being fooled for a second time, brother.
No, and it's so sad because he is a good coach. I mean, you saw the first year he was here. He is a good coach. He's a talented coach, and he put together a pretty good coaching staff. But man, the way he handled wanting to go to South Carolina, the way he handled getting busted in the interview, it just wasn't good. I think if he would have let Vince know, say, hey, I'm going to interview for South Carolina, I'm just interested in what they have to say, yeah, blah, 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 yakety schmackety, he probably got the green light to go interview. But let's be honest. I think what made a lot of Louisville fans mad, you guys, hey, chime in and let me know in the comments what you guys think I'm about to say next. I think a lot of things that made a lot of Cardinal fans upset, especially this Cardinal fan, is the fact that South Carolina, at best, is a lateral move. It's a lateral move.
But is it?
I mean, it may be a little bit more money, granted, but as far as like prestige and coaching wise, it's a lateral move at best. And that's at best. That's only because of the SEC is it considered a lateral move. Because honestly, if South Carolina was in any other conference, the Big Ten, Pac-12, it would be a downgrade. In the past 20 years, South Carolina hasn't done diddly squat. Nothing. Haven't been ranked. Haven't they? I don't think they ever won like a major bowl game in the past like 20 years. Louisville's undefeated in the old BCS bowl games. You know, what has South Carolina done in the past 20, 30 years? Yeah, you had Steve Spurrier. But even with Steve Spurrier, at best, was what, maybe the third in the East? At best?
Yeah.
Come on now. That's what I'm saying. And he did it after a 4-7. Actually, you interviewed while you were still, well, you was at 3-6 or something like that. So you're having a horrible season. So it's not like you guys like really have a great resume to go bounce.
And I tell you what, and I put some similar comments out on Twitter. And of course, if you want to follow myself on Twitter, that's at Rashaan, Raashaan. If you want to follow Main Event Sports on Twitter, it's at ME Sports. But, you know, I put some thoughts about Satterfield, and I said, frankly, that I feel like his flirtations completely and totally destroyed the Louisville coaching staff. And a lot of people, I don't know if it's Stockholm Syndrome, I don't know what it is, but the Louisville fans don't want to hear that. Like, they were very upset when Scott Satterfield, you know, came out and said everything that he said about, you know, South Carolina and being willing to look around. But now, Haven, it's very interesting to see the responses by a lot of the fans that are now not wanting to hear any of that and just kind of trying to back their guy or, you know, whatever. But I'm surprised. I'm surprised that there are still Louisville fans that are defending this dude. Like you said, he's a very good coach. He's very talented. But I feel like all of this lays at his feet.
I mean,
and you know, and right now, to me, this year coming up, coaches be damned, whoever gets hired be damned. You need to win. Some people saying 500. No, brother, you need 8-6 minimum.
I
Or
mean,
8-4 minimum.
8-4. Yeah,
Eight
you
and four
know,
minimum.
it's, you know, I look at it and it'd be different if he was winning at the same clip that Bobby Petrino was winning the first time. Because a lot of people are like, well, what about Bobby? Bobby met with Auburn, Tennessee, LSU, pretty much every school in the SEC that he could meet with, he met with. The difference was Bobby was like blowing everybody out. I mean, that 2004 team, I've said it before, to me, and I know Mario kind of disagrees. I know Harry Douglas disagrees when we have these conversations. But to me, that 2004 team is the greatest Cardinal football team of all time. That
Yeah.
team in Boise State could be argued as the greatest Cardinal football team of all time. Charlie Strong, in my opinion, had the second best Cardinal football team of all time when they went to the Sugar Bowl and blew out a hapless Florida squad. And then Bobby had the number 2 team of all time, the 2006 Orange Bowl team.
Haven, they were above 500. Like, you're talking about winning bowl games. They were above 500. They weren't. What was Louisville's record last year?
Like
2 and
3 or 4 wins, something like that.
It was terrible. Like
4 and
the
7.
whole point. You know, you go 4-7. You know, like Bobby Petrino was winning football games. Scott Satterfield tried to leave and look for a new job after he runs the Ferrari into a wall. Like, it's a completely different situation. And just the fact that this dude is basically going to say, you know what, I'm going to run, you know, I'm not going to change your oil. I'm going to, run the tires until they bald. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to get a paint job. I'm not going to do anything with it. I'm going to bust your hoopty up. And then I'm trying to walk out and leave. Like, it was just as badly mishandled.
As you can mishandle the situation.
I've never seen anything like it. It was terrible. Like, you're talking about Bobby Petrino. Hell, Ron Cooper. Like, Ron Cooper did a better job of handling things than what this dude did. Like, it just amazed me, man. I don't know what to say about it.
But you know what? We'll see. Spring practice starts like literally like next week. So he has all these new coaches to get acclimated to how he does spring practice. Um,
Louisville doesn't
so
have an offensive coordinator yet. Well, who's going to be the OC?
everybody says they're going to name the wide receiver coach Gunter Brewer is going to be named as OC because the Satterfield calls it a play, so it says OC in name only. Um, but we'll see. We'll see. But one thing I think Satterfield needs to do to really, if he's going to stay here and make Louisville his home, he's going to have to solidify another top-notch recruiter. I said the same
Yeah.
thing about Bobby. I said when Bobby came back, Bobby's going to have to find a recruiter, somebody that can bring him talent. And he really didn't do that. Satterfield's a great coach, but he's going to have to find that guy that can bring in that next level talent. I know right now by stars, not by stars, but by numbers and stuff. This is Louisville's greatest recruiting class in the history of Louisville football. The current class that Scott Satterfield brought in. But from looking at that class, if you just look at the rivals, they have one 4-star kid on that class and like a bunch of 3-stars. So the way it goes, like the more kids you have, they raise your numbers up based on the number of kids, so you can overcome start efficiencies. The number. It's a whole complicated mathematical formula. What I look for is one thing: how many 4-star players does Louisville have? How many 4-star guys did we recruit? We have one. If Louisville's going to compete with the Clemsons of the world, we have to get 4-star kids per class. I don't care if they're JUCOs, transfers, whatever. You need 4-star kids per class. We got one. So this next recruiting class, he's gonna have to, he's got to knock out the park. He's gonna have to overcome that. It's gonna be interesting to see what he does with this new staff. It's gonna be interesting to see if there's any more staff turnover at the end of the season. So we'll see. I will say this: he's a good coach. He can overcome a lot of this because he's good at calling X's and O's. Let's see if he gets the offense going. Let's see what happens. He has Malik one more year. Hopefully Malik is the Malik from his first year, not Malik from last year that plays next year. We'll just have to see what happens. Hopefully the defense doesn't start off really slow and crappy like they did last year and kind of build on what they did last year. We'll see. We'll see. But my man Scott, he has a lot to do because if he starts out next year, the Ole Miss game in Atlanta, if they still have it in Atlanta, if it's fans, we'll be there if there's media.
I'm going to say that they're definitely going to have the game, but the question is how much media will be there and how many fans will be there. Because I definitely think we're going to see that TV money is going to drive that. So the Chick-fil-A kickoff will go down. And you know what? I would love to make a return to the Chick-fil-A kickoff because we were there last time Louisville was at the Chick-fil-A kickoff for the debut of Lamar Jackson. Let me tell you something. Endless Chick-fil-A sandwiches up there in press row was outstanding. So, yes, I am all about going back to the ATL for the Chick-fil-A kickoff.
And we got to go to old school leather helmet.
Oh, absolutely. I'm being very, selfish right now with that hope. But, yes, I would love to see that. But, no, I mean, really, when you talk about, Louisville Ole Miss, a chance to kick off the season with an SEC opponent, I think that Louisville could really do a job to get next season started off with some momentum, which is much needed. I mean, we're taking on Lane Kiffin. He's a dude that everybody's going to be paying attention to. He's a guy that, eyeballs are going to be driven to the set just to see what Lane Kiffin's going to do. So Louisville's going to have an opportunity, again, under the bright lights to do something big. But it's going to be put up or shut up for Scott Satterfield. Like, he's going to have to find a way to win back the fan base. And the only way to do that is going to be to win, period. Just win, baby. Like my man Al Davis always likes to say. It's going to be all about just win, baby. So we'll have to see what happens with that. I don't really know how that's going to work. I've heard some good things about a lot of the young guys coming in. Amari Huggins-Bruce at wide receiver. I've heard some good things about him. Ashton Gillott, defensive end, both freshmen that came in and enrolled early. I've heard some good things about several of those guys. So we'll see. I think the quarterback room's a little thin. I know that Louisville signed some preferred walk-ons. had a kid, a 3-star quarterback out of California that signed on as a preferred walk-on as well, which is a really good kid. If you can get a 3-star kid to sign on as a preferred walk-on, that ain't bad. But we're just going to have to see what Louisville can do. I do think that there's going to be an opportunity for Louisville to get off to a much better start, because I think after about the 7th or 8th game, they realized that Mikael Cunningham / Malik Cunningham is not a
pocket passer,
pocket passing quarterback, and they allowed him to get out and start running again. And I thought the Louisville offense looked a lot more like what we saw the previous year, the first year under Scott Satterfield, down the end of the season. So I think that Coach Satterfield did learn some lessons there, and I do think that Louisville's offense will get off to a better start this coming year. So we'll just have to see. I mean, there's a lot of questions about it. Spring practice is just around the corner because Louisville likes to start spring practice while snow is still on the ground. So, we'll have to see what happens. If Gunter Brewer is the guy, that'll be interesting. I would love to see. I know some people were asking for like a Dave Ragone or Chris Redmond, a name like that to come in.
No, you can't have Chris Redmond. He's busy building the Louisville Extreme Arena football team. So he's their team president.
Well, true, fair. That is fair. If any, if they want to bring in somebody with some Louisville ties to maybe do some some handshaking to the administration and to the establishment here, I think that would go a long way to making some people happy. We don't need Butch Beard trying to have his name pulled out of rafters and things anymore. I don't know who'll be next. Deion Branch will say he don't want to, have his name on the football stadium or something crazy. Scott Satterfield, it is time for you to be the best politician you can. You need to find your inner Don King and start saying, "Only in Louisville, only in Louisville." I need all of that right now.
Make Louisville great again, Scott.
Yeah.
But hey, you know what? As we talk about my man Deion Branch, who was Super Bowl MVP for one, the England Patriots, for one, Tom Brady. Tom's about to do it again with the Bucks. We're going against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Man, this may see. I told you at the beginning of the season, do not sleep on Tom Brady. You kept telling me he's old, his arm would give out, he has a noodly arm, he would never make it. And I told you, now that he has real weapons, he's going to do great things. And you thought I was wrong. No, sir, you were wrong. Drew Brees was the guy that couldn't throw a 40 yards. But then again, I'm going to give Brees a pass because, one,
he had
like 8
broken ribs, man. Come on.
8 broken ribs and a collapsed lung at like 50 years old. And came back wearing like one of those FBI SWAT team flat jackets on to protect his midsection. But Tom, the ageless wonder, my God, you give that man some weapons and look at him. He's just dangerous. If only the Ravens would give Lamar Jackson a wide receiver, we could see what Lamar Jackson can do as far to throw to. Different discussion for a different day.
I was going to say, brother, that's going to be a whole main event sports show of just Lamar Jackson and what needs to happen in Baltimore. So we'll have to save that one. But, yeah, the ageless wonder is at it again with this time with the Pewter Pirates.
The Pewter Power, baby.
Yeah, I'm saying that they're back. I can't believe it. Green Bay, thank you for screwing it up. And Jair Alexander had a 2-interception day, and y'all figured out a way to screw it up. So now I got to look at Tom Brady in the Super Bowl again.
They had like 3 straight turnovers and could do nothing with them. They were picking off Tom left and right. He tried to throw the game away, and the Green Bay just wouldn't take it.
They peed down the leg, period. They peed down the leg. They could not get it done. They let the old man come up to the tundra and beat them. They ought to be embarrassed. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers went on the road 3 times, and no one could beat them. 3 times. Well, old man. Oh, my God.
Brady. Tom willing them to win.
Well, it all comes to a hold and a stop this Sunday as they take on the 8,000-pound gorilla that is the Kansas City Chiefs. And I absolutely despise, as a Raiders fan, lifelong, I absolutely despise the Kansas City Chiefs. I hate them. My son, Mahomes is my son's favorite player in the world, and I still hate him. You know, I'm tired of his stupid Head and Shoulders commercials with his stupid curly hair, and he's already Mr. Face of the NFL.
I mean,
If there ever could be a tie in the Super Bowl, Haven, I would love that this year be the tie and neither team win.
I mean, but Mahomes is good. I mean, he's just that good. I mean, the man has an unbelievably strong arm. Some of those passes, those underarm 50-yard passing throws, when he's under duress, it's just crazy. Patrick is as good as advertised. I mean, he's just that good, and their offense is unstoppable. And not only get Sammy Watkins back, I mean, really the only people who stop the Chiefs are the Chiefs. And the fact that they like to lollygag for the first half of a game, and then turn it on like in the fourth quarter and go beat somebody. That's what they did last year. They lollygagged the whole first half. 49ers thought they had a chance, and then they flipped the switch.
So let me ask you, because we were about a 2-hour delayed phone call away from probably having the most the biggest catastrophic major sports incident in history with haircut gate with the Kansas City Chiefs. For those of you that don't know, two Kansas City Chiefs players, DeMarcus Robinson, a wide receiver, as well as their starting center, are now in the COVID protocol because apparently 20 Kansas City Chiefs players went to their team barber. Okay, they were all sitting there about to get a cut. DeMarcus Robinson, he was the first guy up. He got his cut in. The center was about halfway through his cut when all of a sudden the barber gets a phone call and they say, "Hey, man, you're positive. You're COVID positive." We're in the middle of cutting this dude's hair.
That's crazy.
So immediately they rush in. These two guys get put on protocol. All the other players left. Haven, could you imagine if they would have gotten through it, all 20 of those Kansas City Chiefs players would have gotten their hair cut? And then he got that phone call. What type of disaster we would be looking at right now?
Well, one who would no longer be the barber of the Kansas City Chiefs. He'll be unemployed and railroaded straight to Kansas City. He'll be the barber of probably your Des Moines, Iowa nunchucks. So he got lucky on that one. Number two, the Chiefs got lucky because, man, I mean, the game is so tight now. You lose a couple of players, that can completely change your outlook. Like, imagine if
20 players, 20.
I mean, that's
3 or 4 days before the Super Bowl.
You even like the Browns trying to play the Jets with like wide receivers you named off the practice squad, and that you found out in the street. You're like 6'3". Suit up, let's go. I mean, it was almost that bad. You had the Saints without an entire running back, like no running backs at all. Just like, you played running back in high school, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, that's what it basically comes to. Like, I would have. It would have been very interesting to see how because you can't really postpone the Super Bowl. I don't think. Like, I don't know what would have happened had that have gone down, because you wouldn't think that. I mean, they only have a 55-man roster. So
54-man roster.
54-man roster. You lose 20 guys. You're talking about 34 dudes, and you don't know. What position groups they are. Like, could you imagine the Kansas City Chiefs lost like their whole offensive line? It'd be like, you all have to play the game with like no offensive line. We're just gonna have like the running backs pitch it back to the quarterback. Like, they would have had to have done something, but like literally we were about 2 hours from having maybe the most unbelievable incident ever. But even as it is, Haven, we saw what happened to the Baltimore Ravens with them not having their starting center, or actually their backup center, because their original starting center got hurt about week 10. But, once they lost their backup center and that other guy had to get in there, they got Lamar Jackson hurt. Lamar Jackson ended up with a concussion. So I do think, me being a Raiders fan, everybody remembers probably the most famous incident with the center in Super Bowl history. Barrett Robbins goes on a bender because he can't handle the stress of going to the Super Bowl, goes to Tijuana and gets all coked out and drunk and everything else, and, ends up missing the Super Bowl. And, of course, the Raiders end up going on to lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as it were. So, losing your center is huge. That's the guy that makes all the snaps to the quarterback. That's huge. That's a big thing, don't you think?
It's more than big. I mean, he is the quarterback's offensive line. He calls all the protections for the line. So if you go down to your second, third string dude, these are guys that don't know all the protections. Actually, they don't know all the other offensive linemen that well. So, because you have to work as a unit when you're offensive line. So you have to know what every other guy does, so you guys can kind of blend in together cohesively. And if that's your first time, in a Ravens case, when they beat the Tennessee Titans, their right tackle was signed that day. The fact they played the game with a dude who the coach had to introduce himself before the guys getting dressed in the locker room. The coach like, "Hey, I'm Harbaugh. I coach the team. Good to see you. Let's go." I mean, it's just amazing. They were able to beat the Titans.
It was amazing. Yeah, it was definitely amazing that the Ravens got as far as they did. That's why I'm not overly critical of them. Just the fact that they were able to turn it around and win Lamar's first playoff game was a miracle with what they had to deal with. But yeah, I think that's definitely. I mean, Demarcus Robinson is probably the fourth wide receiver for Kansas City, but he does play a lot. But he's not going to be available. But I think the big question mark is going to be at the center. We're going to have to watch those quarterback center exchanges. I know that Kansas City mainly stays in shotgun. So, we've seen shotgun snaps where the ball goes flying over. And let me tell you something, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a defensive line that gets to the quarterback. So there's going to be an extreme amount of pressure on that center who's going to want to get that ball out and get his hands up and ready to block.
Especially Claus McGee himself.
that is just wrong.
I know, right? I was wrong. For those who don't know, this is Pierre Paul. Remember, he got his fingers blown off.
Got his fingers blown off playing with firecrackers.
And his hands literally look like this. I mean, like once he takes like the tape and stuff off.
That is so mean. That is so mean.
But it's true. It's so true.
Haven Harrington, ladies and gentlemen. Haven Harrington. It's you know what? Maybe this sports show is so much better when there's cameras, because now you don't see what I have to deal with, and you just don't hear the voices.
Pierre Paul. But he balls with his three fingers, or four, everyone to put it.
Jason Pierre Paul's a monster.
Yeah.
He's always been a monster. And I think that, Pierre Paul, Michael Strahan, and those guys, that was, one of the other teams that really put the screws to an elite quarterback who at the time, of course, was Tom Brady for the New England Patriots. And that front four was basically able to dominate, even though they didn't have the greatest offense, and were able to win 2 Super Bowls, with basically a dominant defensive line, with guys like Matthias Kiwanuka as well, and Justin Tuck. So, I mean, God, you're talking about 4 monsters.
But man, come on. But the only monster that we need to talk about this game is Tom Brady. How that dude is still going to Super Bowls.
It's great.
It is amazing. I mean,
what?
He is the GOAT. I don't care what anybody. A lot of people say he's the greatest football player. Period. I'm not going. I would not go that far.
No.
But he is the greatest quarterback in the history.
Yes.
Of the NFL, like
absolutely.
By far.
And it's interesting because I really and truly believe, like, he has so much belief in himself, and he carries himself in a way that where he expects to win. And that really rubs off on everybody else. Like, dudes that haven't even earned the right to have that swag have that swag because Tom Brady has that swag. He makes people believe that they are 8 feet tall.
And Tom doesn't care if you're a bum, if you're a murderer. Tom, if you can play football, hey, Tom's happy. Antonio
yeah,
Brown, hey, you know what? You may piss everybody else off in the NFL, but you're my boy. And Tom's like, I want you on my team, and we got him.
hey, and I mean it's amazing. No, Tom Brady gets all the credit in the world, man. It's going to be a very interesting Super Bowl. I may hate both of the teams with all of my being. The Buccaneers for beating the Raiders and the Chiefs for being the Raiders' most hated enemies. But it's going to be an entertaining game. Brady versus Mahomes is, that's what the NFL wanted. So congratulations, NFL. You got the matchup that you wanted. And now we have stories, we have intrigue, we have things to watch. And, there's going to be a million new commercials for new movies that everybody's got to sit and watch at home on HBO Max. So we'll have to wait and see what happens,
So
man. But
before we
I'm
go,
excited.
who's your pick? Who you got?
Man, I would like to say that the Buccaneers could get it done just because I hate the Chiefs that much that I would rather cheer for Tom. There was a time when I actually liked Tom Brady. I'd like to say that, but the Buccaneers got helped out a lot in every round. They won every game, the last, especially the last 2 games of their playoff run by less than a score or less. I just don't think they can go in and have the mistakes that they had and win. I think this Kansas City Chiefs defense gets completely overshadowed by how good Mahomes is, but Tyrann Mathieu and that defense are monsters. They never get any credit. They are very good, and they basically shut down a very good Buffalo Bills offense that I think is a lot better than what Buffalo Bills offense, which I think is a lot better than what the Buccaneers are going to put out there. I think the Chiefs get it running away. I mean, I don't want to say it's going to be Cowboys Bills level, but I do think that I'd say my prediction: Kansas City 35, Tampa Bay 17.
First of all, you ain't never blown out Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. It's never happened. It's not going to start now. 2, I think in all 18 Super Bowls that Tom Brady has played in, because it seems like he's been like almost every Super Bowl, he's only scored like 9 points in the first quarter, like all his Super Bowls.
Yeah, he's never thrown a touchdown pass in the first quarter of the Super Bowl.
And it's not going to happen this year either. He's going to keep that streak alive. But I think he keep it close. Tampa's going to keep it close.
Okay.
I want to say Tampa's going to win because I don't want to bet against Tom Brady. I've made that mistake too many times before. But it's also hard to bet against the Chiefs and Eric Bieniemy and then that offense because they're unstoppable. Bieniemy and Mahomes, those guys, unstoppable. Not against Sammy Watkins back. It's hard to bet against them. It's almost impossible. But Tom has proven himself time and time again. You bet against Tom even when you have a superior team. Yes, I'm talking about you, Atlanta Falcons. Even with that superior team, and he has nobody to throw to, he still finds a way to win. Tampa Bay. I'm not going to bet against the great one until they proves me wrong. And dagnabbit, I picked them to beat the Falcons, and they won that game. I'm picking them now.
That's fair. Do you have a final score?
No. Yeah, I'll go 35-33 Bucks.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to leave it like this, and I'm going to tell you this. Patrick Mahomes ain't Matt Ryan. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Oh, he's not. Oh, the Bucks don't see. The Chiefs don't quit. The Chiefs will not get up by like 35 points and just start, we won.
Yeah, no.
Carolina be like, what?
No. Them boys come to bust it to the white meat. So it'll be interesting. If they can keep up, I would love to see it. If they are going to do it, it's going to be on the front four, the defensive front four for the Buccaneers to get pressure on Mahomes, force some turnovers, get him uncomfortable to where they can't get the ball down the field. But man, with Tyreek Hill, and the rest of those speedsters, as well as Kelsey, Travis Kelsey is
they
just,
got weapons.
oh,
And they
it
blew them
is.
out early in the season. They played earlier, and it was like it wasn't even close. Like Tyreek Hill had 200 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns in the first quarter.
And how funny is it that you have two, superstar Pittsburgh Steelers hiding out on both teams' rosters? You have Le'Veon Bell at running back for the Chiefs and Antonio Brown sneaking around for the Buccaneers. How do you think the Steelers are feeling right now?
I'm sure James Harrison's probably someplace as well on the sidelines. He's still
Right.
ripped.
Right. But hey, we'll see what happens. Hey, but you know what? It's been a quick hour, man. It was a good show. I cannot wait to see what happens Super Bowl Sunday. Like I said, everybody, make sure you all pay attention. We're going to start to have some great spotlight interviews and shows coming up. So make sure you stay tuned to the Main Event Sports Show. Please like us, follow us, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the Facebook page. We got some great things coming up and don't want you guys to miss it.
Hey, and like we like to end every show, without any struggle,
there is no progress.
Peace.